Have you ever wondered what the instruction manual for a thriving community would actually look like? Well, today we're cracking open a nearly 2,000-year-old text that claims to be exactly that. We're going to walk through Timothy chapter 5, verse by verse, and build out this blueprint so clearly that its principles will be almost impossible to forget. So let's start with the big question. What really holds a community together? I mean, we talk about shared interests, common goals, but what if the most practical, detailed answer was written down almost 2 millennia ago? That's exactly what we're about to find out. You know, every solid building needs a rock-solid foundation. For this community blueprint, that foundation is all about respect. But we're not talking about just being polite here. This is a very specific, family-based model for how every single interaction is supposed to work. Okay, so verse 1 kicks things off, and it's crystal clear. Do not rebuke an older man, but exhort him as a father. Just picture this. Instead of a harsh critique, it's a gentle, respectful encouragement. Then it tells us to treat younger men as brothers. This isn't about rivalry. It's about camaraderie, seeing them as your equals. Now, moving to verse 2, the pattern continues. Older women as mothers. This calls for a relationship built on warmth, wisdom, and genuine care. And finally, and this is so important, younger women as sisters with all purity. This creates this really clear, protective, and respectful boundary. It's a complete relational map designed to build trust and safety right from the get-go. And boom, right away, the blueprint shows us just how practical it is. It pivots from these big principles of respect and zooms right in on a very specific, incredibly detailed system for protecting the most vulnerable members of the community, the widows. So verse 3 opens with this powerful command: honor widows who are really widows. Now, the word honor here is way more than just a polite nod. It's about active, committed support. Think of it like giving someone a medal of honor that actually provides food, shelter, and financial help. And this support is specifically for the true widows, those who are genuinely on their own with no other family safety net to catch them. And here's where it gets really specific. Verse 4 says, "But if any widow has children or grandchildren, let them first learn to show piety at home and to repay their parents." You can just picture it, a family forming this protective circle around their widowed mother or grandmother. This isn't just a suggestion. The blueprint says it's their #1 job. And verse 8 drives this point home like a sledgehammer. If anyone fails to provide for their own family, they've denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Wow. The text frames this not as just a social mistake, but as a deep failure of your most basic beliefs. Verses 5 and 6 then paint these two incredibly different portraits, side by side. On one hand, verse 5 shows us a woman who is truly alone. You can almost see her face, lit by a single candle as she prays night and day. Her entire hope is placed in God. But then verse 6 gives us a totally different scene, a life of self-indulgence and chasing pleasure. And the text is blunt: this person is dead while she lives. So you have one woman who is spiritually alive in her hardship, and another who is spiritually empty in her freedom. And then you get to verse 7, and it's like a hammer drop. And these things command that they may be blameless. You can just see a leader standing in front of everyone, not offering suggestions, but stamping these instructions with a seal of authority. This isn't optional. It's about protecting the integrity and the reputation of the whole community. All right, so for those true widows who actually need the community support, verses 9 and 10 give us what is basically an official checklist. It's like an application. First up, age. She needs to be at least 60 years old. Second, her character, the wife of one man, which points to a history of faithfulness. And third, her reputation. You can imagine a montage of her life, raising kids, welcoming strangers into her home, washing the feet of guests in humble service, and actively helping people who are in trouble. This whole process makes sure that the community's resources go to those who have a proven track record of contribution and have a genuine need. But then, in verses 11 through 13, the blueprint takes a really sharp turn, but refuse the younger widows. Okay, so why? Well, the text gives a specific reason. There's a concern that their own desires might lead them to want to remarry, and in doing so, they might turn away from their initial commitment to the faith. The risk described is that they could become idle, wandering about from house to house, gossips, and busybodies. It's this picture of someone just drifting without purpose, maybe stirring up trouble along the way. And the blueprint is designed to prevent that. So what's the recommended path for them? Verse 14 lays it out. "Therefore, I desire that the younger widows marry, bear children, manage the house." The idea is for them to build a new family unit, to create a stable home. And by doing that, they give no opportunity to the adversary to speak reproachfully. It's a proactive strategy for both personal and community stability. It's also very realistic, with verse 15 acknowledging that some had already started to stray. And verse 16 kind of wraps this whole section up with a really clear final rule. If any believing man or woman has widows, let them relieve them. It's so straightforward. The family is the first line of defense, the primary safety net. Only the widows who are truly, completely alone are supposed to be supported by the wider community. This makes sure that the community's resources are safe for those who have absolutely no one else to turn to. Okay, now the blueprint makes this huge shift in focus. After going into all that detail about caring for the most vulnerable, it turns its magnifying glass onto the most powerful. This final section is all about the community's leaders, how to honor them, how to protect them, and ultimately, how to hold them accountable. Verse 17 kicks it off with honor. Let the elders who rule well be counted worthy of double honor. Now, this double honor means two things: deep respect and also financial support. And to make this point stick, verse 18 gives us these two amazing, down-to-earth pictures. First, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. I mean, picture a hardworking animal helping you process your food. You wouldn't stop it from eating some of the very grain it's working on, right? And the second is just simple fairness. The laborer is worthy of his wages. But with that honor comes protection, and this is huge. Look at verse 19. Do not receive an accusation against an elder except from 2 or 3 witnesses. Imagine someone pointing a finger at a leader. That accusation just hangs there, completely powerless, until a second person and then a third steps up and says, yes, that's what I saw too. This isn't about covering up wrongdoing. It's a firewall to protect leaders from lies and slander. So what happens if an accusation is proven? Well, verse 20 does not mess around. Those who are sinning rebuke in the presence of all, that the rest also may fear. If the mistake is public, the correction has to be public too. It's a powerful image of a leader being held accountable in front of everyone. And verse 21 adds this really serious charge: apply these rules without prejudice, doing nothing with partiality. You can just picture a set of scales, perfectly balanced. Justice has to be fair for everyone, no exceptions. Verse 22 is all about hitting the brakes. It's this super important warning: do not lay hands on anyone hastily. You can just imagine someone rushing to put a crown on a new leader's head without really vetting their character first. And the warning is serious. If that leader fails, you share in other people's sins. Your hasty endorsement makes you partly responsible for the fallout. The advice is simple: keep yourself pure. And then you get this fascinating little curveball in verse 23. The blueprint just pauses all the community-wide rules for a second to give some very personal advice to Timothy, the guy receiving this letter. He's told, no longer drink only water, but use a little wine for your stomach's sake. It's just this unexpected, practical bit of health advice, a moment of personal care tucked right into these huge instructions. The chapter finishes with verses 24 and 25, which are this really profound thought about character. Let's visualize two people walking toward a finish line called judgment. For one person, their sins are like this giant neon sign they're carrying, clearly evident preceding them. But for someone else, their sins are hidden, kind of trailing behind them, following later. The same is true for good deeds. Some are obvious, like a shining light. But the bottom line, the most important part, is that what's hidden cannot be hidden forever. Sooner or later, everything comes into the light. It's a call for patience and good judgment. So there you have it, a detailed verse-by-verse journey through a 2,000-year-old blueprint for building a community. We've looked at its plan for respect, its safety net for the vulnerable, and its high standards for leaders. Which, of course, leaves us with one critical question to think about. Which of these ancient principles, of family responsibility, of leader accountability, of patient discernment, are the essential building blocks we still need to build stronger communities for ourselves today?